Hello, sensible spiritual people. Today I'd like to talk about the arrogant atheists. I talked about the angry Christians. Now I want to talk about the arrogant atheists and their new religion of atheism. Now, as far as I'm concerned, I've done a lot of science. I've done a lot of statistics, like a lot of statistics. And as far as I'm concerned, people like Richard Dawkins and the rest, they're actually very unscientific. Absolutely, totally unscientific. Actually, I think it's full of shit. And same with a lot of the other um, atheists out there. And they are angry, They're like, "There's no God, and I hate him." That's their creed. And the reason I call them unscientific is because when you're listening to any of their speeches, they're using what's called inductive thinking. Not like Columbo the detective or Perot, who's using deductive thinking. They're using inductive thinking. They're saying, because like the ancient Egyptians used to say, when we see the dog star, it rains. So the dog star is causing the rain. That's inductive thinking. They're doing it this way, though. I can't see God around me, therefore he doesn't exist. And anyone else, and this is where the arrogance comes in, and anyone else who believes in God is a fool because I'm right. Okay? So that's what I call the arrogant atheist and the stupid atheist. They're using inductive thinking. They're not scientific in one iota. And they're not scientific in one iota because they don't use what is called the null hypothesis. Okay, this is the null hypothesis. And the null hypothesis says that if you want to do any research on anything, you have to take the opposite. Okay? You have the default position is there's no relationships between two um, measured phenomena. Okay? So I can't see God, therefore God doesn't exist. So the null hypothesis of this would be that there is no connection between that statement, which means I can't see God, but therefore God does exist. That's standard statistics. If you can't disprove the null hypothesis, then your argument collapses. And this tells us basically that if you cannot see something, it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. Okay? Same when germ theory was first postulated. If you want to go back and investigate that, a very interesting story. But originally, he was saying, well, there's something on hands that we can't see that must be what I'll call germs. And the doctors who were coming in from the morgue who were delivering babies said, look, my hands are clean. I can't see anything on them. What are you talking about? Okay. And then he, made us one half the doctors who delivered babies wash their hands before they delivered babies in the other half. And then he just seen that, the doctors who washed their hands, the infant mortality rate went way down. So did the mother's mortality rate. Then he flipped them over and done the opposite. So there was a double-blind study. Okay, so what is the null hypothesis of an atheist? The null hypothesis of an atheist must be that I cannot see God, and therefore I don't believe in him. So the null hypothesis is that God exists. Then I have to prove that God doesn't exist. That is actually pure science, not the way they go on about it. You see, they go on about emotional arguments and all this, but basically they're just wrenching out their anxieties. Okay? Uh, you cannot see radio waves, but it doesn't mean that they don't exist. They do exist, you just can't see them. It wasn't until we developed sensitive enough equipment that we could pick them up. Same with X-rays. It wasn't until Roentgen X-rayed his wife that proved that X-rays do exist. Okay? So all this thing of pure reasoning, and all the how we know about pure reason. And most of the atheists' argument are not based on pure reason. They're illogical. And it comes down, I can't see it, therefore it doesn't exist. All their arguments go around this. So only the best thing we can say is that you can't see God, and there's no way we can measure God, and there's no way we can check whether God exists or not. Some people who have spiritual or mystical experience say they can, but we can't verify it. I can't verify it for myself. So it's left at a question mark. And that's it. That's the best they can get. However, you have angry little atheists and arrogant little atheists like this one running around trying to shove their new religion of atheism down people's throats. Okay? Now, if we were back in the 80s, these people would be running around trying to ban smoking. They have to have a cause to justify their existence. And for people like Dawkins, he has to have a cause that justifies his existence. And it's being, you know, one of these arrogant atheists. Now, there's a lot more than him. He's just the first one that came to mind. So whenever anyone says to you that God doesn't exist, say, prove it. What proof do you have that he doesn't exist? And they say, well, what proof do you have that he does? And you see, well, there's the argument's finished. It's left it as question mark, because it can go no further. There might be something out there called a Y ray that we haven't discovered yet. Okay? Just because we cannot see it, or we cannot feel it, or we cannot hear it, does not mean that it does not exist. It means that basically we have no way to measure it. Okay? And that's it. So for people who wish to be religious or spiritual, go for it. Don't follow this inductive reasoning that says, I cannot see God, therefore God must not exist. Okay? Well, that's just inductive reasoning. That's that's as low as it gets in science. It doesn't even get any lower than that. Okay. So that is where we are, and I think that that is something that you should all understand and know. Okay, guys, I hope this has been of thought-provoking and a little bit of explanation for you. And remember, as I said, when someone says God doesn't exist, say, prove it. And if they start going, just say, no, you made the statement, so the onus is on you to prove your accusation. If someone accuses me in court, it's a presumption of innocence. If someone accuses me in court that, as they say, I've been accused of, I don't know, whatever, couldn't think of any crime that I would commit. So say I've been accused of shoplifting a pack of chocolates, okay? So I'm taken to court, and the onus of proof is on the accuser, right? It's not on the defendant. So if you get one of these nutty atheist people saying, well, God doesn't exist, well, the onus of proof is on them. It's not on me. You know, well, I'll prove it. And I say, well, you prove God exists. I say, no, you made the statement, so the onus of proof is on you. Okay? And he can't. He cannot prove, or she cannot prove, that God does not exist. And it's as simple as that. If you said, prove to me that X-rays exist, we'll say, okay, we'll go down to the hospital and we'll talk to the X-ray technician, then he'll explain to you how it works. It's very simple to prove that. Okay, so it will just end up as an endless question mark for one reason and one reason only. I doubt that man will ever develop any technology that can denote spiritual energy. If they can, it'll be great. But until that day comes, it shall be left as a question mark. May the light of Christ and spiritual energy, and may God all touch your brow and awaken you. And just ignore those angry, arrogant atheists. Bye now.